The sun hung low in the sky, casting a golden hue over the bustling courtyard at the base of the Buen-Too-Far mountain. The air was thick with the smell of earth and sweat as villagers lived, their voices a mix of gossip and laughter amid the clanging of metal. Harry Quiano stood at the heart of the action, his worn armor hugging his muscular frame, a stark reminder of his former glory. With a furrowed brow, he oversaw the training of young guards, their eager eyes reflecting the dreams he once nurtured. Yet they practiced their drills. Arik's mind drifted, haunted by specters of his past moments of neglect and choices that had spiraled into a corruption he couldn't shake. Shadows of doubt danced in his hazed eyes, a testament to the burden he carried. A sharp clang of swords broke through Arik's reverie as two young guards collided in a flurry of excitement.
Come on, Lisa!
"You can do better than that?" shouted a boy with blonde hair, his enthusiasm infectious even amid the sweat and grime of the courtyard. Arik's heart tightened as he watched. Their youthful fervor reminded him of his days of unblemished ambition. Yet, memories of his failures surged, days spent neglecting his duties for fleeting pleasures, the faces of those he had let down flashing in his mind. Wiping an ad across his brow, he shook off the ghosts, trying to focus on the task at hand. Nearby, laughter among the villagers drew his attention. "They say the burial site holds secrets, treasures untold," a woman exclaimed, her eyes gleaming with a mix of wonder and greed. The others leaned in low, their voices rising above the mundane clamor of training. Arik clenched his jaw, feeling a familiar sense of protectiveness swell within him. The burial site was sacred, a resting place for the ancestors, yet that they were, drawn to the allure of gold and glory. "It's not a site for treasure hunters," he barked, his voice cutting through the chatter, silencing the crowd as all eyes turned to him. The wise mentor, Dilara, stood a few paces away, observing with a knowing gaze. As the villagers quieted, she approached Arik, her presence a calming force amidst the chaos.
Guardianship isn't always about the sword, Arik.
"Sometimes it's about the silence we keep in the face of temptation," she said softly, her voice like the gentle rustle of leaves. Arik met her gaze, feeling the weight of her words press against the storm inside his. These villagers saw only the surface, oblivious to the deeper currents of greed threatening to unravel their very foundation. He shifted, his armor creaking, as he turned back to the guards, torn between the desire to shield them and the grim reality of his own failures. As the sun dipped lower, casting long shadows across the courtyard, Arik felt the suffocating weight of his past actions closing in. The cries of the young guards faded into a distant hum, mingled with the villagers' whispers of the burial site. "You can't let them dig." "Arik," Dilara murmured, her eyes piercing through the fog of his indecision. But the thought of confronting the villagers, of risking their ire, sent a shiver down his spine. With every heartbeat, he wrestled with the urgency of action against his internal strife, caught in a tempest of doubt and determination that threatened to drown him. The courtyard, once a vibrant place of training and hope, felt like a stage for his unraveling. As twilight descended, casting the courtyard in hues of indigo and violet, Arid found himself standing at a crossroads, between the weight of his past and the path of the present. The young guards resumed their training, but their laughter felt distant now, as if echoing from another world. Dilara stepped close, her hand resting gently on his arm, a gesture of understanding that brought a flicker of warmth to his chilled heart. "You must tread carefully, Arik. The mountain watches, and the wind carries the tales of those who fail to heed its whispers." As her words sank in, the realization struck him. He could no longer stand idly by. The time for redemption was at hand, but at what cost? As the last light faded, Arik's resolve solidified. He would protect the burial site, but in doing so, he risked awakening the darker parts of himself he had fought so hard to quell. The villagers would soon learn the true weight of their desires, and he, their reluctant guardian, could only hope he would become the very monster he sought to defeat. With the shadows of his past swirling in his heart, Arik turned toward the mountain, its jagged silhouette a reminder of the battles yet to come. The scent of earth mixed with the cool evening breeze whispered promises of danger and hope. He took a deep breath, steeling himself for the confrontation that loomed ahead. One that would test his resolve and challenge the core of his being. No longer could he afford to dance with the ghosts of his choices. The time for reckoning was hid, and he would stride into the fray, not merely to reclaim the honor he thought lost, but to protect the sanctity of what he held dear. As he stepped forward, the whispers of the villagers faded behind him, replaced by the echo of his own heartbeat, resolute and unyielding. As twilight descended, casting the courtyard in hues of indigo and violet, Arid found himself standing at a crossroads, between the weight of his past and the path of the present. The young guards resumed their training, but their laughter felt distant now, as if echoing from another world. Dilara stepped close, her hand resting gently on his arm, a gesture of understanding that brought a flicker of warmth to his chilled heart. "You must tread carefully, Arik. The mountain watches, and the wind carries the tales of those who fail to heed its whispers." As her words sank in, the realization struck him. He could no longer stand idly by. The time for redemption was at hand, but at what cost? As the last light faded, Arik's resolve solidified. He would protect the burial site, but in doing so, he risked awakening the darker parts of himself he had fought so hard to quell. The villagers would soon learn the true weight of their desires, and he, their reluctant guardian, could only hope he would become the very monster he sought to defeat. With the haunting shadows of his past swirling in his heart, Arik turned toward the mountain, its jagged silhouette a reminder of the battles yet to come. The scent of earth mixed with the cool evening breeze whispered promises of danger and hope. He took a deep breath, steeling himself for the confrontation that loomed ahead, one that would test his resolve and challenge the very bay of his being. No longer could he afford to dance with the ghosts of his choices. The time for reckoning was hid, and he would stride into the fray, not merely to reclaim the honor he thought lost, but to protect the sanctity of what he held dear. As he stepped forward, the whispers of the villagers faded behind him, replaced by the echo of his own heartbeat, resolute and unyielding. The tavern warm glow spilled out into the cool evening air, a beacon against the encroaching darkness. Inside, laughter mingled with the clinking of mugs, and the aroma of roasted meat wafted through the space, rich and savory. Harry Quion pushed through the heavy wooden door, its creaking hinges protesting his entry, only to be met by the vibrant hum of voices animatedly sharing tales of the mythical burial site that loomed just beyond the village's grasp. Shadows danced along the walls, flickering candlelight casting a warm, inviting glow over the dead villagers, their faces alight with fervor. Yet beneath the surface, cheer lay an undercurrent of tension, palpable in the air. A blend of ambition and desperation that clung to Arik. He stepped further inside, feeling the weight of his own post pressing against him like a storm brewing on the horizon. "Their treasure buried there, I tell you," a burly man with a thistle-like beard declared, slamming his mug on the table, causing the nearby glasses to tremble. His eyes sparkled with greed as he leaned close to the others, who nodded fervently, caught up in the thrill of the impossible. "Glory awaits those brave enough to seize it." The words hung in the air like the thick scent of ale, intoxicating and dangerous. Halleck stood at the edge of the tavern, arms crossed tightly over his chest as his heart raced, not from the call of treasure, but from a profound sense of dread. He recognized the fire ignited within the villagers, yet felt an icy grip around his own convictions, a reminder of the sacredness of what they sought to exploit. Across the room, Dorian, a lean man with sharp features and a bitter smile, caught Eric's gaze. With a voice dripping with contempt, he rose from his table, cutting through the revelry like a knife. "And what about you, Eric?" he taunted, a mocking edge to his tone. "A fallen guardian, to preach about honor. You think you can save this place? You just holding on to ghosts?" The laughter that followed stung like a slap to Eric's face, igniting the smoldering embers of his own shame. The villagers turned to him, eyes glimmering with scrutiny and suspicion, their fervor faltering as they awaited his response. Halleck's fists tightened, the old scars on his skin seeming to throb in time with his heart. He wanted to defend himself, to cry out against Dorian accusations, but instead he took a step, the weight of the tavern's atmosphere swirling on him. The voices faded into a distant murmur, replaced by the thunder of his pulse in his ears. He could see the burial site in his mind, the sacred ground that held dead history and the remnants of his own failures. It was not merely about treasure, it was about what it meant to guard something sacred. It took a deep breath, grounding himself in the moment. "I have no interest in glory, Dorian. It are things worth protecting far beyond our own greed." His voice, though steady, revealed an undercurrent of desperation, a plea wrapped in resolve. He could feel the villagers' eyes weighing his words, the flickering flame of hope battling against the shadows of doubt that loomed within him. As the laughter faded into a heavy silence, the tension in the tavern thickened like smoke. Eric stood at a crossroads, the murmurs of ambition swirling around him like a tempest. The urgency to reach the burial site pulsed within him, igniting a determination he thought long extinguished. This moment was pivotal, not just for himself but for the villagers whose fates intertwined with his own. It had to choose between the fear of failure or the risk of redemption, and in Dorian and Sneer settled into a wary curiosity. Arid felt the fire of purpose rekindle in the pit of his stomach, ready to confront the forces that threatened what he held dear. With a resolute nod, Eric stepped away from the shadows of the tavern, aware of the hushed whispers following him like ghosts. The villagers remained captivated by the promise of treasure, but Eric's heart beat for something greater, an unyielding desire to protect the sacred ground that spanned generations. As he pushed open the tavern door and stepped into the biting night air, he felt the weight of Dorian and challenge still lingering in his thoughts. The burial site awaited, a silent sentinel of his past mistakes and potential redemption. He would confront the darkness, not just for himself, but for the history that demanded to be honored. The path ahead was fraught with danger and temptation, but one thing was clear. He could no longer stand idly by. The air in the hidden cave beneath the mountain felt cool and damp, a stark contrast to the oppressive heat out. Jagged stalactites hung like fangs from the ceiling, dripping with the persistent moisture of ages. The ground was littered with small stones that crunched underfoot, each step echoing softly in the cavernous space. As Ariquion ventured deeper, the faint glow of luminescent crystals embedded in the walls illuminated his path, casting eerie shadows that danced around him. The glimmering surfaces sparked memories of his past, a past heavy with mistakes, and the relentless search for redemption. Halleck paused, feeling the weight of the darkness he carried, and the promise of something more, something that beckoned him from the depths of this ancient lair. As he pressed on, the ethereal light seemed to pulse in rhythm with his heartbeat, guiding him further into the cave embrace. The walls, etched with strange symbols and time-worn stories, whispered secrets only the brave dared to uncover. It was then that he stumbled upon a flat slab of rock, the surface intricately carved with a map, its lines and markings glowing faintly in the luminescent light. Halleck had breath hitch in his throat. This was no ordinary discovery. Here was a path to the mythical burial site, a place he had only heard of in tales whispered by firelight. Hope surged within him, battling the remnants of cynicism that clung to his heart like shadows. Halleck knelt before the stone, tracing the contours of the map with his fingertips. Each groove felt alive, each curve a promise of redemption, yet a shiver of apprehension coursed through him. "What if I am not meant to find it?" he whispered, half to himself, half to the cave. The air grew thick round him, as if the very spirits of the ancients were listening, demanding he confront the truth of his journey. "Your past does not have to define your future," he reminded himself, though doubt gnawed the edges of his resolve. Suddenly, the soft fip of his voice seemed to awaken something deep within the cave, an unsettling rumble that made the ground tremble beneath him. Halleck's heart raced as he stood, gripping the map tightly, feeling its weight, not just as a physical object, but as a burden and a promise. Outside, the wind howled like a restless spirit, but within him a storm brewed. Would he dare to row this map to its end, knowing it could lead to salvation or ruin? He took a deep breath, summoning courage from the depths of his conflicted soul. "Yes, but," he murmured, the words tasting sweet and bitter on his tongue. The cave appeared to exhale around him, the crystals flickering like dying stars. Halleck glanced back at the path he had taken, the shadows now seeming more menacing than before. The choice ahead was clear yet fraught with peril. He could abandon this newfound hope or pursue the winding fate laid before him, knowing full well that each step deeper into the mountain could either redeem him or plunge him further into darkness. With a final, lingering look at the map, he turned toward the mouth of the cave, determination set on his face. The journey was just beginning, and Eric Fleon was ready to face whatever awaited him beneath the earth-cold embrace. As he emerged back into the daylight, the world bed felt vibrant and stark, a harsh reminder of the reality he was leaving behind. The sun rays kissed his skin, but the shadows of the cave still clung to him, whispering of secrets not yet unearthed. Halleck's heart thunder, a mix of anxiety and exhilaration coursing through his veins. He had a path laid out before him, one that promised answers and the chance to reclaim his honor. Yet, the taste of uncertainty lingered on his tongue, the echoes of the cave urging him forward. With resolute steps, he set off again, ready to confront both the myth and the man he had become, knowing that the true challenge lay not only in the journey, but within himself. Beneath the brooding sky, the treacherous slopes of that Went Too Far mountain loomed, its jagged peaks cutting into the clouds like the teeth of a ravenous beast. The air was thin, sharp with the scent of pine and damp earth. Eric Quillon trudged forward, each step a battle against the loose stones that seemed intent on sending him tumbling back into the shadows below. His heart pounded not just from exertion, but from the ever-present weight of his past. The scar across his cheek seemed to throb in rhythm with his pulse, a constant reminder of the man he used to be. Beside him, his mentor, Vilthan, moved with a grace that belied the mountain and treachery, her silver hair whipping like the banners of ancient warriors, her eyes scanning their surroundings with a knowing depth that both comforted and unnerved him. "You must tread with purpose, Eric," she urged, her voice steady as the wind howled, echoing the haunting tales of the past that clung to the rocks. Harrogate boots crunched against the gravelly surface as he paused to consult the hastily drawn map clutched in his calloused hands. The parchment felt fragile, a remnant of lost lore that threatened to slip through his fingers. "It points to the burial site, but where?" he muttered, scouring the rocky outcrop that jutted out like a challenge from the mountain. Vailthin stepped close, her presence anchoring him amid the chaos of his thoughts. "It's not just about the path, Arik, about finding the right path within yourself." Her words resonated, and he clenched his jaw, grappling with the gnawing doubt that had dogged him since he'd embarked on this quest. A sudden rustle from the underbrush sent a shiver of urgency through Arik. He swiveled, his body tense, eyes narrowing as he scanned the tree line. "Did you hear that?" he whispered, the hairs on the back of his neck rising. Vailthin nodded, her expression shifting from patient mentor to alert guardian. "We are not alone. Others seek what we seek. Stay vigilant." Arik's heart raced, the noble cause fueling his determination but mingling with a primal instinct to protect what was sacred. "Are you sure it wise to continue?" he asked, uncertainty creeping into his voice. "What if we're outnumbered?" Vailthin's gaze remained steady, unwavering.
Fear is the enemy, Arik.
"Remember what you fight for." As they moved deeper into the shadows cast by the mountain, the tension wrapped around them like a shroud. The rocky terrain grew steeper, each step a test of his resolve as Arik felt the eyes of unseen rivals upon him. The air crackled with an electric tension, and he could almost hear their whispered taunts riding the wind echoes of his own doubts reflected back at it. "We must reach the site before they do, Arik. Time is our enemy, just as much as they are," Vailthin urged, her voice sharp against the howling gusts. He nodded, forcing himself to focus, each breath a reminder of the stakes. The sacred ground awaited, and with it the chance to reclaim not just the burial site, but the remnants of his shattered honor. Yet they rounded a jagged outcrop. The faint sound of laughter drifted through the trees, mocking him, and Arik clenched his fists, resolve hardening within him. "We can't back down. Now," he muttered, feeling the weight of his past pressing against his shoulders as they pressed on. Shadows looming closer, dark figures lurking just beyond the reach of his vision. Closing part Ras. The clearing emerged at last, and there it lay, the burial site of ancients, an ethereal beauty amidst the rugged chaos of rock and shadow. Stone altars spattered with lichen rose,
carvings from the earth, their faded carvings whispering stories long forgotten.
Wildflowers bloomed defiantly between the cracks, vibrant and alive, as if to remind him that beauty can thrive even in desolation. But the laughter grew louder, echoing through the trees, a taunt that twisted the knife of his past deeper. It turned to Vailthin, her expression solemn yet resolute. "We are too late," she breathed, the weight of their mission settling between them like a bitter fog. But this is just the beginning. As the shadows surged forward, eager to claim what he sought, Arik felt a flicker of desperation ignite within him. No longer just a guardian seeking redemption, he was now a man standing at the precipice of his own reckoning, and the true battle was about to begin. The clearing emerged at last, and there it lay, the burial site of ancients, an ethereal beauty amidst the rugged chaos of rock and shadow. Stone altars spattered with lichen rose,
carvings from the earth, their faded carvings whispering stories long forgotten.
Wildflowers bloomed defiantly between the cracks, vibrant and alive, as if to remind him that beauty can thrive even in desolation. But the laughter grew louder, echoing through the trees, a taunt that twisted the knife of his past deeper. It turned to Vialthan, her expression solemn yet resolute. "We are too late," she breathed, the weight of their mission settling between them like a bitter fog. But this is just the beginning. As the shadows surged forward, eager to claim what he sought, Arik felt a flicker of desperation ignite within him. No longer just a guardian seeking redemption, he was now a man standing at the precipice of his own reckoning, and the true battle was about to begin. The wind howled land Arik on as he reached the cliff top, the jagged rocks below plunging steeply into the churning sea. Shadows of memory flitted through his mind, ghosts of a past he could scarcely bear to recall. The burial site lay beneath him, a sacred expanse hemmed in by ancient stone altars, carved with time-worn symbols that whispered of forgotten rituals. Wildflowers, bold against the stark earth, danced defiantly in the gusts, their colors a stark contrast to the heavy, reverent silence that hung in the air. As he steadied himself, his eyes narrowed at the figure standing across the hollow, a man whose silver tongue and deceitful smile promised only danger. Dorian, the corrupt official, whose ambitions lay thick like fog over the then. Dorian leaned casually against a weather altar, his tailored coat fluttering in the wind like a hawk's wings. "Ah, Arik, the noble guardian," he called out, his voice a silken thread that sliced through the tension. "I heard you were prowling about like a specter. Here to protect your precious site, are we? Or perhaps to reclaim a gorbest left buried?" The taunt hung in the air, palpable, as Arik's jaw tightened, a muscle twitching in his cheek. He stepped forward, his worn boots crunching on gravel, the sound amplified in the stillness, like a heartbeat counting down to an inevitable confrontation. Dorian laughter rang out, a sound both mocking and dismissive. "You think these stones hold any power? They're just relics to be exploited, my friend. Imagine the wealth that could flow from there, the ventures we could unleash. A tourist trap, a festival of profit." He gestured grandly, his hands weaving vids of greed, but Arik stood firm, his expression darkening. The memories of his past, the ives he had once protected, seared into his mind like the scars on his cheek. He felt the pull of desperation grip his heart, a reminder that power often came at a cost. "You'll defile these grounds, Dorian. They are sacred, are not a prey ground for your ambitions," he replied, his voice low and steady, a storm brewing beneath the surface. The wind shifted, carrying the scent of salt and earth as Dorian stepped closer, his smile a sharkic grin. "Sacred? Ha! A quaint notion," he scoffed, his eyes glinting with an unsettling intensity. "But tell me, what if I were to expose your little secret? You think you're the only one with a past? The only one tied to this land?"
"We are inextricably linked, Arik."
"Your redemption hinges on my success." How poetic, don't you think? Arik felt the weight of Dorian words settle upon him like a shroud, the realization leaving a bitter taste on his tongue. The stakes were higher than he had imagined, the lines blurred between protector and usurper as they stood on the precipice of conflict. The air crackled with intensity, a storm brewing as their fates entwined beneath the ancient stones. Arik clenched his fists, the tattoo on his forearm, a guardian symbol, burning with unspent energy.
"I won't let you exploit this place, Dorian."
"You may think you hold the reins, but I won't stand idly by while you trample over the past. The guardians of this site will rise, and they'll protect what you want to tear down." With a final glare, he stepped back, the cliff edge looming like a challenge. Dorian watched, calculating and cold. The battle for a sacred land was just beginning, and Arik knew that to reclaim his honor and protect the site, he would have to confront not only Dorian ambitions, but the darkness within himself Emil. As the wind whipped round them, the cliff top felt like a stage set for an ancient drama, the echoes of their confrontation lingering in the air, like the scent of impending rain. Dorian tilted his head, his smile never wavering, but his eyes glinted with a darker hunger. "Very well, Eric. Let the game begin. But remember, every move you make will bring us closer to a reckoning you can't escape," he taunted, before retreating, the shadows of the cliffs swallowing him whole. Halleck stood alone, the weight of his decisions pressing against him, knowing that the fight ahead would only test his resolve, but also illuminate the truths he had long buried. The winds howled, carrying with them the whispers of the ancients, urging him onward the inevitable clash with his past and the future that awaited. The narrow path wound like a serpent through the rugged cliffs, each step echoing the gravity of the moment beneath Eric Quillon's scuffed boots. Jagged stone walls towered above him, glistening in the dappled sunlight that broke through the shifting clouds. The air was thick with the scent of earth and decay, a reminder of the sacred ground he stood upon, where the whispers of the ancients still linger ere. The distant murmurs of Dorian party reached his ears, laughter and plotting winding together like a noose, tightening around the heart of what should remain undisturbed. Harry's fingers brushed against the cool stone of the cliffs, his pulse quickening with the weight of desperation that clawed at his chest. This was not just a burial site, but a realm of legacy, and he was its reluctant guardian, poised for a confrontation that could shatter it all. Halleck crouched low, his heart pound in rhythm with the wind that howled through the canyon. The laughter of Dorian and his followers echoed ominously, each taunt a reminder of the defilement they threatened. Gritted his teeth, Eric scanned the cliffside. Loose rocks rested precariously above, their presence whispering of danger, and opportunity. In that heartbeat of clarity, he dropped to his knees, digging his fingers into the earth, feeling the vibrations of the stones beneath him. He could shift the balance, he thought, and with it disrupt the plans of the man who had robbed him of his honor. A thrill coursed through him, a dangerous rush that mingled with his guilt. Was this the redemption he sought, or a deeper descent into chaos? "Dorian," Eric's voice shattered the air, cutting through the revelry of the party below. He watched as Dorian turned, his smirk faltering at the sight of Eric's determined stance. "You think you can just waltz in here, pillaging the memory of those who came before us? You're a coward." Dorian's dark eyes narrowed, the amusement draining from his features. "And you, Eric, are a fool if you believe you can stop me. You've lost everything, why cling to these ghosts?" The tension crackled between them, thickening the air. Eric felt the weight of his past pressing against her, urging him to act. With a fierce resolve, he began to loosen the stones above, the thrill of sabotage igniting a fire within him, even as the potential fallout loomed ominously in the background. The first rock tumbled, dislodged by Eric's frantic hands, sending a cascade of debris cascading down the cliffside. Gasps erupted from Dorian party as they scrambled back, the air filled with dust and the stony clatter of chaos. Yet as the dust settled, realization dawned on Eric. Innocent seekers, drawn to the sacred site, wandered below, oblivious to the danger he had unleashed. His heart sank, each beat echoing with the realization of his recklessness. "What have I done?" he murmured, an icy dread unfurling within him as he watched the debris threaten the very souls he had sought to protect. The thrill of victory twisted into a gnawing guilt, the blood of innocence staining his hands in the pursuit of an honor long since tarnished. In that moment of chaos, Eric had strayed far from the path of the guardian he once swore to be. The thrill that had surged through him now felt like poison, each pulse of excitement weighed down by the implications of his actions. As dust settled around him, his heart raced with a new urgency, a desperate need to rescue those at risk. Dorian's laughter rang hollow against the stone walls, a reminder of the man he had become. With a determination that burned brighter than the guilt, Eric sprang into action, his mind racing with plans to avert disaster. Even he grappled with the consequences of his choices. Would redemption come from this act of sabotage, or had he damned himself to a fate worse than he could imagine? The answers lay buried beneath the stones, waiting to be unearthed apart. The burial site of ancients sprawled before Arik Quion, an eerie amphitheater cradled by jagged cliffs that loomed like sentinels. The air was thick with an unspoken reverence, laced with the faint scent of wildflowers that stubbornly broke through the cracks of the ancient stone altars. Each altar, etched with time-worn carvings, whispered secrets of rituals long abandoned, and the oppressive silence was punctuated by the distant wail of the wind. Halleck stood at the threshold, his dark brown hair whipping around his face, the weight of his decisions pressing down upon him as he scanned the sacred ground. The prominent scar across his cheek felt like a brand of shame, reminding him of battles lost to enemies and within himself. In that stillness, he grappled with the gravity of his choices, a storm brewing within his hazed eyes, flecked with sadness. A flicker of doubt danced in Eric's mind as he hesitated at the entrance, the haunting memories of his past failures swirling like shadows around him. Each misdid deed rose to the surface, clawing for recognition. The innocent lives he had jeopardized, the trust he had shattered. Clenching his fists, he brushed his tattoo forearm, a guardian symbol now marred by guilt. "What kind of guardian am I?" he muttered, voice low, barely more than a whisper against the wind. The burden of his former Gora pressed heavily on his chest, and a sealed tear escaped his eye, mingling with the dust of the sacred ground. Suddenly, the ground beneath him shifted, a reminder of the impending clash between his past and his desire for redemption. He stepped forward, feeling the rough texture of the stone beneath his boots, as if it were urging him onward. If I sabotage Dorian's plans, will I truly save them, or just damn me save more? His heart raced. He considered the implications, the echoes of laughter and betrayal reverberating in his mind. Was he chasing a ghost, or could this act of defiance restore dignity to his fractured soul? As if in sum, the wind howled fiercely, whipping around him with a fierce insistence. As resolve hardened, he straightened his back, allowing the cold air to invigorate him. "I won't let this place become a mockery of what it represents," he declared, his voice rising above the gusts. Each word anchored him further in purpose, binding him to the ground he once failed. But the thought of the lives he might endanger lingered, a shadow lurking just behind his determination, reminding him that even noble intentions could bear grotesque fruit. With an iron will forged from anguish, Eric took a deep breath, the scent of damp earth and wildflowers filling his lungs. He stepped decisively into the burial site, knowing that each choice from this moment forward would be a reckoning, a test of his integrity, in a world steeped in corruption. The spirits of those interred dead seemed to watch, waiting for him to honor their legacy or betray it anew. As the echoes of his past whispered in his ear, he felt a familiar pull toward the darkness he fought to escape. In that crucible of redemption and despair, Eric made his choice, yet the true battleground lay just ahead, a shadow over his heart still to be confronted. The burial site of ancients sprawled before Eric Quion like a haunting melody woven into the fabric of time. Nestled within a natural amphitheater, the air hung heavy with the scent of damp earth and wildflowers that defiantly broke through the rugged stone. Towering cliffs, glistening with mineral deposits, loomed overhead, their shadows casting an eerie pallor over the stone altars that dotted the landscape. Weather-red carvings whispered, stories of rituals long forgotten, yet today, The sacredness of the ground felt threatened. As he stepped into this hallowed space, Eric's heart quickened, a symphony of dread and determination swelling within him. At the center of the site, stood Dorian Aldred, his back to Eric, slick kek hair gleaming like a predator in the sun. "Don't you see? This is all about opportunity," Dorian voice cut through the stillness, smooth and calculating. It picked Tucker relic, its ancient etchings glimmering in his greedy grasp. And Eric felt a visceral tug in his chest, a mix of revulsion and longing. These trinkets are just dust to you, but they hold value, real value.
Eric clenched his fists, the familiar scar across his cheek burning with the weight of his past.
The relics that had once been sacred to his people were now being exploited by the very man who had tainted his legacy. "You can't just dismantle their significance for your profit," he managed, his voice low but steady, carrying a tremor of conviction he was desperate to uphold. Dorian turned, a glimmer of amusement in his cold blue eyes. "Morality is a luxury, my dear Eric. You should know that better than anyone." He gestured dismissively at the altars, his disdain palpable. "These are just stones and bones to the world. But to Flotta Majan, the aftercharts restart her replicable and it. Yet the fear of reprisal wrapped around him like a noose. Each beat of his heart echoed with the memories of his failures, how easily he had fallen before. But standing here, amidst the relics of a lost culture, he felt the tides of determination swell. Was it time to act, or was he to remain shackled by his past? As Dorian advanced, reaching for another artifact, Eric stepped forward, a sudden clarity igniting within him. The air crackled with tension, and he could almost hear the spirits of the ancients urging him to stand firm. "If you dare to take another step toward those relics, I swear I'll stop you," he declared, every word a promise forged in desperation. The choice loomed before him like a gaping maw. Either he would reclaim his honor or let it slip away into darkness once more. The wind whispered through the ancient stones, a reminder of the lives entwined with this ground. Eric's resolve hardened, a dawning realization that he could not waver and now not dare. At the foot of the mountain, the burial site of ancients loomed, a testament to time passage, its jagged cliffs glistening in the pale sunlight. The air clung heavy with a sense of reverence, yet a palpable tension pulsed among the dead seekers. Harry Quiano stood amidst them, his worn armor casting shadows that danced with the flickering light from torches set in weatherware stone. Faded carvings adorned the sacred altars, whispering tales of those who had come before, tales lost to avarice and ambition. Clenching a fist out the tattered edge of his cape, Eric felt the weight of their collective thirst for treasure pressing in, tainting the sanctity of the ground they stood upon. Doubt gnawed at him, but determination flickered within the depths of his hazed eyes, urging him to speak out against the tide of greed that threatened to drown them more. "This place is sacred." Eric's voice cut through the murmur of anticipation, trembling yet resolute. The seekers paused, their eyes glinting with impatience, faces flushed with eager ambition. Dorian, a fig cloaked in confidence and disdain, stepped forward, a sardonic grin stretching across his lips. "And what do you know of sacredness, Quayen? You just a fallen guardian, lost in your own delusions. We're here for what lies beneath the earth, not for your half-baked morals." The laughter that erupted from the crowd echoed against the cliffs, harsh and mocking, the sound mingling with the wind like an ominous chant of rejection. Eric's heart sank, the weight of their scorn heavier than the armor he wore, threatening to crush his resolve even further. With a deep breath, Eric pressed on, his voice steady despite the fury in his chest. "You're blinded by promises of gold. These lands, this place, holds the spirits of those who came before us. To disturb their rest is to invite ruin upon ourselves. Can't you feel it? The air thickens with their disapproval. The seekers shifted, a few exchanging glances, but Dorian stepped insidiously closer, his voice a silky taunt.
Spare us your theatrics, Arik.
It not the dead we fear, it the living who hold us back, but glow. You're the only one standing in the way of our fortune, and fortune is what we came for. As Dorian words hung in the air, the laughter of the crowd swelled once more, drowning out Arik's protests. The vibrant wildflowers, which had bloomed defiantly through the stones, seemed to wilt in supernal hostility, their colors fading against the backdrop of greed. Arik felt a shiv crawl off his spine, an unsettling sense of isolation washing over him. He stood alone, surrounded by faces twisted with ambition, questioning whether he could truly make a difference amid such fervor. The spark of hope within him flickered perilously close to extinguishment, but a small voice whispered that he must not give in, not while this ground still breathed with the memories of the ancients. Even doubt gnawed at his heart. Arik's resolve flickered, yet he knew he couldn't abandon the fight. In that moment, he made a decision. He would speak louder, stand taller, even if it meant standing alone. As he lifted his chin, determination bolstered by desperation, the wind howled dulled him, a mournful sound that mingled with the laughter of the seekers. Perhaps he was destined to be the voice of the forgotten, a guardian standing against the tide of greed. But Dorian's sneer deepened. Arik could feel the pull of despair, the crushing weight of isolation threatening to consume him, leaving him to wonder if his quest for redemption would lead to enlightenment or ruin. With the stakes rising higher, he prepared for the confrontation that lay ahead, uncertain yet unyielding, caught in the storm of ambition and spirit. The atmosphere hung thick with tension. As the seekers cast their glances towards the mountain, torn between their yearning for treasure and the et of ancient voices warning against such folly. Arik's resolve, once a beacon of hope, flickered uncertainly, like the dying flames of the torches that surrounded them. He had become a solitary fid amidst a sea of ambition, yet the fight within him refused to be extinguished. The ground beneath their feet trembled, and a distant rumble echoed from the mountain, as though it too sensed the brewing conflict. Arik took a step forward, heart racing, with a mixture of dread and purpose, knowing that the coming confrontation would either forge a path towards salvation or plunge them all into darkness. With a final glance at the seekers, he prepared to make a stand, for even in isolation, he would turn away from the truth. Atop that went too far mountain, the burial site of ancients lay like a solemn secret whispered among the jagged cliffs. The air was crisp, laced with the scent of pine and the earth-cool dampness, while the distant et of the wind carried a somber melody that felt almost alive. Arik Quion stood at the precipice of this sacred ground, his worn armor catching the fleeting sunlight, casting shadows that danced upon the ancient stone altars. Despite the beauty surrounding him, his heart thrummed with agitation, the weight of his intentions pressing down the low-hanging clouds above. It was a figure of conflict, muscles taut, scar, cheek set with determination, poised to confront the antagonist lurking in the shadows of his past, ready to unveil the truth that had haunted him for far too long. You think you can just waltz in it and reclaim what lost, don't you? Dorian's voice sliced through the silence, smooth yet dripping with contempt. He stepped into the open, his presence like a storm gathering on the horizon. His tailored attire contrast starkly with Arik's battered armor, an unsettling reminder of the power imbalance between them. The wind whipped between them, carrying the scent of wildflowers that dared to bloom amidst the stone, a testament to resilience that felt mocking in the face of their confrontation. Arik clenched his jaw, the tattoo of his guardian symbol pressing against his skin like a brand. This ground is not yours to exploit, Dorian. The ancients deserve respect, not your greed. His voice was steady, but the flicker of doubt in his hazel eyes betrayed the storm within. He could almost hear the whispers of those who had been laid to rest here, urging him on, mingling with the bitter taste of regret that linger ere on his tongue. Dorian chuckled, a sound devoid of warmth. Respect? You've lost your way, Eric. You think you're a guardian? You've tarnished that title. Your attempts to protect this place will only sow further chaos. You're nothing but a relic of a time that moved on. His words dripped with venom, a challenge that curled like smoke in the crisp air, igniting the tension that hung between them. From a distance, the wise mentor, a figure cloaked in shadows, observed with steady eyes. He sensed the stakes, the delicate balance of power, teetering on the edge of revelation. Harrick. Struggle resonated in the mentor heart, a silent plea for guidance amid the clamor of past failures and future aspirations. The mentor shifted slightly, ready to intervene should the moment spiral out of control. His presence a quiet reminder that wisdom sometimes offered strength in silence. As the wind howled its mournful tune, round them, Arik inhaled deeply, the earthy scent grounding him against the torrent of emotions threatening to overwhelm. The confrontation was not merely about the burial site, was a reckoning of his very soul, a battle for redemption that would shape the course of his future. With a fierce resolve igniting within him, he stepped closer to Dorian, determination etched into every line of his face. The sacred ground beneath him pulsed with history, urging him forward. Whatever the outcome, he was ready to unveil the truth that had bound him for so long, knowing that this moment held the power to either shatter him or free him from the chains of his past. The burial site of ancients lay cloaked in irreverent silence, broken only by the distant whispers of the wind weaving through jagged stone cliffs, which towered like ancient sentinels over the sacred ground. Wildflowers, vibrant and defiant, pushed through the cracks of weather-air altars, their bright hues stark against the somber gray of the stones etched with time-worn carvings that spoke of forgotten rituals. In the heart of the amphitheater, Arik Quayon stood, a muscular figure shrouded in worn armor that echoed his past. A faded insignia of a once revered rank barely visible beneath layers of dust and regret. His hazel eyes darted over the site, the weight of history pressing down on him, reminding him of the fragile balance between honor and corruption. Then, from the shadows of the ruins, a feed emerged, Dorian, eyes glinting with malice, his presence unsettling the spectral peace of the site. Dorian was sliced through the air sharp as the edges of the stones surrounding them. You think you can reclaim this place for your so-called noble cause, Arik? You're just as corrupt as the rest of them. You've betrayed your own kind and think you can redeem yourself by clinging to this graveyard. He stepped close, the tension coiling like a snake ready to strike. The air thickened with animosity, each accusation echoing off the ancient walls, as if the very ground beneath them felt the weight of their words. Halleck's jaw tightened, muscles rippling beneath his armor as he took a step forward, closing the distance between them. You've twisted your ideals into something vile, Dorian.
This ground is sacred.
It deserves to be protected, not exploited for your gain. Each word dripped with determination, a stark contrast to the doubt simmering beneath his surface. His hand instinctively brushed against the guardian symbol tattooed on his forearm, a silent reminder of who he once was, fueling the fire within him. Dorian scoffed, his expression a mask of disdain, but beneath it lurked uncertainty. Protect instinct? Or are you just trying to bury your past? You think saviors wear the guise of guardians? Your tarnished legacy is all you'll ever be. With this sudden movement, he lunged, the fight igniting like a spark against dry tinder. Howard barely had time to react. The air rushing past him, he sidestepped the blow, adrenaline flooding his veins, his heart hammeringly like a war drum in his chest. The clash of their bodies reverberated against the ancient stones, each strike a manifestation of their ideals, a desperate dance of belief and betrayal. Halleck forced Dorian back, the scent of sweat and earth mingling in the mounting chaos, their breaths heavy with exertion and anger. With each blow exchanged, the burdens of their past choices clashed violently, their fists echoing through the hollow amphitheater, calling forth the spirits of those long gone, demanding a reckoning. As the battle raged on, Arik found himself locked in a moment of clarity, each strike pulling him deeper into the heart of his own turmoil. He pivoted, dodging another attack, the sound of their confrontation reverberating against the ancient stones, a cacophony of regret and resolve. In that fleeting moment he realized that this was not merely a physical struggle but a fight for his very soul. With a fierce cry, he surged forward, determination rooting him to the sacred ground beneath their feet. This was his reckoning, and whatever the outcome, he would reclaim the burial site, not just for himself, but for all those who had sacrificed before him. The burial site of ancients lay shrouded in a heavy silence, a haunting stillness that seemed to swallow the world whole. Jagged cliffs loomed like sentinels, their surfaces glistening faintly in the remnants of the fading daylight, while the scents of damp earth and wildflowers mingled with the cool evening air. Halleck Creon stood amidst the worn stone altars, panting heavily, his muscular frame trembling from the exertion of the confrontation that had just unfolded. Shadows danced across his scar face as the weight of his choices pressed down upon him. Each breath a reminder of the lives intertwined with his decisions. The vibrant wildflowers, resilient against the encroaching darkness, seemed to mock his turmoil, blooming defiantly in the cracks of the altar stones, with the vibrancy he felt slipping away. Footsteps crunched on the gravelly ground, and a familiar figure approached. Elysia, his mentor, her elder frame silhouetted against the dying light. Her wise eyes, clouded with concern, searched his face for the truth hidden behind his stoic demeanor. "You've fought valiantly, Arik, but at what cost?" she asked, her voice steady yet laced with a tenderness that pierced through his hardened exterior. Her hands, weather-red by time, reached toward him, offering solace. He felt the instinctive urge to recoil, yet something within him craved the comfort of her presence, the wisdom she always imparted without judgment. Halleck clenched his fists, the muscles in his jaw tightening as he wrestled with the surge of guilt that rose in his chest.
I thought I was protecting them, Elysia.
The site, the legacy. Olafit. But the darkness within me, it keeps clawing at the edges of my mind. What if I only brought more harm? His voice cracked, raw and vulnerable, as he looked away from her piercing gaze. The stillness of the site wrapped him, amplifying his inner turmoil, the specters of the past whispering their accusations into the silence, urging him to give in to despair. Elysia stepped close, her presence grounding him. Every guardian faces shadows, Arik. It's not the darkness that defines you, but how you rise against it. Remember that this sacred ground has endured far worse than you would imagine. The choice lies with you: embrace the clarity you fought for, or allow it to slip through your fingers like sand. You have the power to protect not only this site but those who honor it as well, she encouraged, her voice a soothing balm against the tempest of his heart. He felt a flicker of hope, yet the weight of his past loomed large, a reminder that the fight was far from over. As the last rays of sunlight sank behind the cliffs, painting the sky in shades of crimson and indigo, Arid inhaled deeply, the floral scents mingling with the coolness of dusk, rejuvenating yet heavy with consequence. He stood at a crossroads, the remnants of his struggles scattered like fallen leaves at his feet. With renewed determination, he straightened his spine, a decision forming in the depths of his soul. Elysia's words echoed in his mind, and he understood that redemption was not a destination, but a continuous journey. With each heartbeat, he felt the weight of his choices shift, teetering on the brink of acceptance, ready to forge a path that would honor the legacy of those who had come before him. And as the wind whispered through the ancient stones, he sensed the shadows retreating, for the battle within him had only just begun. Under a vast tapestry of stars, the burial site of the ancients breathed with an ethereal glow, the jagged cliffs standing sentinel against the night. Shadows danced upon the weather-red stone altars, where faded carvings whispered secrets of rituals long forgotten. A heavy silence enveloped the sacred ground, punctuated only by the soft sod of the wind, which carried with it the earthy scent of damp earth and wildflowers bravely pushing through the cracks in the stone. Harry Quilon, imposing in scar, stood before the central burial mound, the weight of his worn armor heavy on his shoulders. As he gazed at the sight, the memories of his past flickered in the corners of his mind, ignited by the starlight that illuminated his path toward redemption. Next to him, his mentor, a figure of wisdom and calm, watched with a knowing smile, feeling the tension in the air lift so slightly that the moment of transformation approached. Harry took a deep breath, the cool night air filling his lungs, grounding him in the present. He knelt before the burial mound, his palms pressed against the earth, feeling the pulse of ages beneath his fingertips. "I vow to protect this sacred ground," he declared, his voice low but resolute, echoing against the stone. The sincerity in his tone cut through the stillness, making the wildflowers sway as if in acknowledgement. The weight of his words hung in the air, binding him to an intention that felt daunting and liberating. As he spoke, the memories of his past mistakes whispered in the recesses of his mind. Yet he found clarity in his commitment, a bright flicker against the darkness of his history. The mentor stepped close, his presence a quiet strength beside Eric. "You carry their legacy now, Eric. Honor it not just with words, but through action," he urged, his voice steady, laden with the wisdom of years spent observing of triumph and failure. The proud smile that creased the mentor with a red face contrast. Stolt sabavesti propuknealex. With the grateful and able Prometheus stirring a heading with Freni of Vartingmo. The proud smile that creased the mentor with a red face contrast. Sharply with the gravity of their shared history. Eric lifted his gaze, meeting the elder knowing eyes, feeling a flicker of hope ignite within. For the first time, he sensed the shackles of his past loosening, allowing it to breathe deeply, as if the weight of his choices was finally beginning to lift. As the stars twinkled above, a profound silence enveloped them, punctuated by the distant rustle of leaves. Halleck rose, brushing the dust from his knees, and stepped back, allowing the solemn air of the moment to wash over him. He turned to his mentor, his hazel eyes gleaming with a mixture of resolve and vulnerability. "I will not let them down again," he stated, the conviction in his voice breaking through the remnants of his cynicism. With each heartbeat, the transformation within him solidified, as if the starlit sky above witnessed the birth of a new guardian, ready to confront the shadows with integrity and purpose. The mentor nodded, pride illuminating his features, as he placed a hand on Eric's shoulder, a silent acknowledgement of the journey yet to come. The night pressed on, thick with anticipation, as Eric stepped away from the burial site, the air crackling with newfound energy. He felt the pull of the horizon, the promise of a new dawn waiting just beyond the cliffs, whispering tales of hope and redemption. The mentor hand lingered on his shoulder, a reassuring weight as they moved forward together. In that moment, under the vast, watchful sky, Arit knew he had chosen his path. The sacred ground would remain untouched, a sanctuary of memory, and he, its guardian, prepared to face whatever shadows loomed on the horizon. As they walked, the wind shifted, carrying the scent of wildflowers and the faint hint of promise, urging him onward into the embrace of the unknown.